conflict, or do you feel that this is something that we're trying to do to correct the system?
No, not a personality conflict at all. It's the conflict in my mind arises back when somebody suggested Ruth Jefferson as one of the people, when we've got 30 to 50,000 wonderful colored women in this town who could do the job she's doing without creating a problem. Who picked her? Who picked Mr. Pope? We've got lawyers in this county, numerous of them, who've never made 18,000 and who would be glad to take the same position for 10 and do as good or a better job. It's somebody who has fixed a program to divide us, as I understand it.
We had three separate tax hikes this morning. First, a 6-cent increase in the hospital tax, bringing that up to 70 cents. We had a 6-cent increase in the road and bridge tax, bringing that up from 2 to 8 cents. And we had a 5-cent increase in the right-of-way tax. That the Commissioners Court took this. No one likes to levy taxes, but in a growth community, in a growth county such as we have, it's absolutely imperative that we do so, and to meet that responsibility not only to the people of this era, but those to come.
Negotiate on the 7.8 figure, which would be Plan A. What will they negotiate on? Fringe benefits?
Well, we can go on fringe benefits, yes. And if they want to raise it higher than 7.8, we'll negotiate there also. We're ready to go up. There's no need in going down.
Talk is cheap. Action speaks louder than words, always has and probably always will. But the talk of these buyers here at Dallas Trade Mart's Home Furnishing Show leads one to pay very close attention to the action they're taking. That action being that they're in here buying these new furnishings, many of them at least, at a record pace. After all, there was a record number here on the first day registering for this event. 5,900 buyers from across the country registered here at the Dallas Trade Center for this show. That's 1,000 more than for the same show last year. The kind of action they're taking ought to tell someone these buyers have confidence in the economy. No one loves a warehouse full of inventory, and these buyers aren't here for that. They obviously feel this merchandise will move through their showrooms into America's homes at an equally record pace. Just last week, in this same building, records fell by the wayside as buyers snapped up higher-priced items at the Christmas gift show. You know, even the most skeptic about our economy must certainly feel that maybe everything's going to be all right after all. This is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News, and just don't feel too much on the move right now.
Well, I'm sure they didn't care for the schedules that we prepared.
Why?
Well, it's less than what they're asking for.
As the administrative assistant for the budget, do you think that the administration has gone just about as far as it can in proposing higher salaries for the teachers?
Well, I think so. Dr. Estes has said that he would support the teacher's $7.8 million plan, and he's planning on doing that. But the board has asked for these options, and he has to present these options to the board.
You negotiate at all?
That depends on what we need to negotiate for.
What about salaries?
Well, salaries, I think that since it can be afforded, that we should get the 7.8. I'm kind of feel real strong about this because the career teachers have been kind of misled in many respects and not given everything that they deserved, and it's about time to get the career teacher on base and many of the others also.
Judge, let's talk for a moment about the reasons for these hikes. First of all, in the hospital fund, in the hospital tax, they first asked, I believe, for 11 cents. You gave them 6. How did you arrive at this figure?
Well, 6 cents was the best that we could do. Of course, we gave a letter of intent to the Board of Governors of the hospital that the Commissioners Court would cooperate with the issuance of revenue bonds sometime down the road. It's necessary for this hospital to retain its accreditation, for us to continue to attract interns and residents to our hospital, that we try to maintain a first-class hospital. Otherwise, chaos could result.
I invited them to come, and necessarily I thought most of them were interested in Judge Sterritt's program to clean up this situation, and I wanted them to come to try to set out some way that we could back Judge Sterritt and get it up to where it wouldn't be a reflection on the bar, as I think it is now.
the hospital tax, some people say that you might be circumventing the voters when you issue the revenue bonds, and rather than going to a general obligation election. What about this, Judge?
Oh, I don't think so at all. The members of the Commissioners Court were elected by the people to study the problems. The people of this county would not have the opportunity to study the problem as we have. We have the time. We're elected to do so. And we can't call a referendum on every hot issue that comes up. This is a Republican representative form of government. And as elected officials, we're supposed to meet that responsibility. And if the kitchen gets too hot, we should get out of it.
Briefly, on the right-of-way and the road and bridge fund, you have a 5 and 6 cent increase. Why?
Well, that's due to the fact that, two, we're a growth county. We're building
Sidewalk superintendents who pass by here are seeing the rebirth of a Dallas landmark. This building behind me was once the Cumberland School. It was the first of the modern brick structures replacing the old frame schoolhouses that served the city in the earliest days. This building was constructed in 1888 and in 1961 was put on the auction block after being declared unsafe and no longer useful to the school system. When the property sold for just over $1 1/3 million, most everyone thought the old school would fall victim to the same fate as other downtown antique buildings. Those who had known this old school, either as students or nearby residents, waited for the day when the demolition ball would swing, ripping through the 81-year-old brick walls. But the demolition did not come. Instead came the firm of Southeast Drilling Company. The new owners and their architectural consultants, Burson and Hendricks, Sedco announcing they would rebuild the old school and make it a Victorian showplace for downtown Dallas. The process of that rebuilding will cost about $1 million and is comparable to the cost of constructing a new modern building at today's prices. But Sedco President William Clements Jr. says he didn't want to see this building torn down. He says it has real beauty, and he adds that Dallas has too few old buildings. The building now has been stripped to the sturdy brick skeleton. Gone are the effects of numerous remodeling attempts, and what remains is something few Dallasites have ever seen. The graceful arches over the windows, the masonry work of nearly 100 years ago, have now been brought to light. Architect Jim Hendricks said until they obtained an old photograph of the building, they didn't know exactly what was wrong. They later realized it was the unattractive flat roof. The original building was graced with a high pitched roof. It's being rebuilt using materials as close as possible to the original. Inside, the classrooms are being transformed into offices for Southeast Drilling. The true beauty of the old brick walls will be allowed to show, marking the result of techniques developed before the turn of the century. Many of the workers on this project have commented that they learned their trade, carpentry, brick masonry, or electrical wiring in this very same building when it was once a trade school. They take a special pride in this job. Many of them are amazed at the soundness of the old building and find it difficult to saw through wood timbers placed in position by workers more than 80 years ago. As this restored building takes shape, it'll provide an interesting contrast to its modern neighbors, and while resting in the shadow of greater skyscrapers, will symbolize the concern for maintaining the beautiful things to be found in this city's history. This is Gene Thomas, Channel 8 News, Dallas.
Now, this is the electronic gate that we're talking about. There's no warning by Eastern personnel that this gate is here and that it's going to electronically frisk us as we walk through.
Not as such, no.
How does it work?
Well, on the order of mine detector system, you walk through it, and
right.
if you're carrying a metal object of a certain size, it will register on the light, which
we just did.
We just did, or you did, because I have no metal on me.
Well, then I must be the guilty party, and the next thing you do is you start looking for large amounts of metal before we can get from here to a plane, and it looks like a metal film can.
There's no doubt about it that the labor movement, like the rest of society, has had its forms of discrimination. And to the best of our ability, and it's been said by President Meany that we're going to eliminate that. And one of the ways to eliminate that, and we recognize what is going on in the country today, is getting our local unions more involved with the question of manpower, with the disadvantage of both black and Mexican American and Spanish American, and also white, so that we can then get about the business of really putting people into helping people along with their work habits. This is something brand new when they go into a plant and an assembly line, something that might be new to them. And so we've instituted what we call the Buddy Program.
Worth Kraft on par with the Dallas, who was making more money per hour. The contractors have informed us that they are prepared to sustain a 6-month strike. In this regard, our resolve is just as strong. We're prepared to stay out as long as we feel is necessary to achieve a just settlement. Fort Worth and Dallas bricklayers will remove pickets from the Dallas County junior colleges. I believe they have already been removed from all Tarrant County junior colleges. We are so informing Dr. Priest in Dallas County. We do want to make it clear that it will create a burden and an extra hardship to us to remove those pickets, but we're doing it in public interest.
Preliminary discussions began today between the UAW and major automobile manufacturers. This year's negotiations may be long and bitter. Observers feel that Leonard Woodcock, the new United Auto Workers Union president, replacing the all-powerful Walter Reuther, killed recently in a plane crash, will be trying to prove his merit as a union bargainer. 3 years ago, Ford was struck by the union. Most labor observers say Chrysler is too weak to sustain such a strike. This year, General Motors, giant of the Big Three, appears to be the most likely target, if indeed there is a strike.
through my maintenance manager, I should know where the problems are in the complex. I'll go directly to that occupant. If I can't solve the problem, then I'll dispose of the tenant.
I think the important thing for us to realize that, in the words of the old Chinese proverb, that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And whatever we've done, it can be considered as really no more than a first step. And we need to constantly remind ourselves that there are many, many problems that need to be solved, and we need to get on with the job now.
Do you have such a goon squad or an enforcement squad within the various tanks?
We do not have anything called a goon squad as far as prisoners are concerned, and we do not have any goon squad prisoners or paid personnel in this building. We have an instructor in the various tanks on different floors. He does not have any authority to enforce any of the rules at all.
Chief Holtman, you've had several federal suits filed against you in recent months. Do you feel that the prisoners are doing this strictly for harassment?
I think that this is being done by prisoners that do not want to follow rules and regulations or any kind of direction. And this is being done as harassment against all authority.
Well, since the city's taking the property, the neighborhood got so bad that leaving the vacant houses, my family got all upset and nervous, so I drawed my money down and bought out in Pleasant Woods.
And what's been your experience in Pleasant Grove?
Well, up until a week from past Thursday, it's been very peaceful out there until we woke up one morning and had 6 flats. Plus painted with aluminum paint, nigger go home on the side of the car, and sprayed my garage door with all the same type of paint.
As far as the negotiations between the Dallas and Fort Worth bricklayers is concerned and the North Texas Contractors Association, the following situation is now at hand. The strike will continue. There is no agreement that has been reached. The last package that we offered the contractors was $2.45 an hour over a 3-year period. The contractors have offered $1.80 to the Dallas bricklayers and $2.05 to the Fort Worth bricklayers.
Unofficial union sources here at the GM plant in Arlington tell me that additional union dues are being levied to pay dues of UAW members during a possible strike. The feeling among the workers here is that a strike lasting perhaps as long as 3 months is indeed a possibility. So far, there is no official word from labor or management. If it comes, it could be as early as August 20th.
In interviewing the prospective tenants will be my first step to outline to them what I will expect of them in order to maintain this property. I will have a maintenance man live in apartment 101 in the hotel apartment. This man will be on duty day to day, and his job will be to maintain the premises regardless. If someone move out, he will paint. If the yard needs sweeping, he'll sweep the yard. But I also plan to have periodic meetings with the tenants
prefer to think that the council would take my remarks as a challenge to continue the good programs which have been initiated by the council and to initiate additional programs that will significantly overturn the many problems of our city. I don't believe that any good purpose can be served by taking a defensive position.